My presentation is on the Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Act. There is the assumption that all convictions are valid and fair under the law. This also implies that any factually innocent person would be able to prove their innocence in front of a judge or jury. When convicting individuals, an error rate of 0.5% to 1% would mean that between 7,500 and 15,000 people of the incarcerated population would be factually innocent. This estimate is low according to scholars, especially in cases regarding the death penalty. 4.1% of those sentenced to death since the mid-1970s are estimated to have been wrongfully convicted. The Michigan Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Act summary. So this law took effect on March 29, 2017, and offers $50,000 for every year that an individual was incarcerated for a false conviction. There are several qualifications that a person must have in order to properly apply for and claim factual innocence. The individual must first have been charged with a felony in the state of Michigan and have completed the appeal process. Second, the individual must present evidence of their innocence and prove that they played no part in the criminal act, including being an accessory or accomplice. Third, the evidence presented must be new and unaddressed by any other court and be unaddressed post-conviction in the appeal process. The claim must also be substantial and directly prove their innocence. The Conviction Integrity Unit further notes that individuals alleging judicial errors such as unfavorable court rulings or procedural errors will not be considered. This also includes individuals alleging harsh or excessive punishments. The unit itself cannot overturn previous court orders or sentences. The main goal is to provide financial assistance to people that were proven factually innocent. This corrects the wrongs of the justice system and seeks to expunge any record of arrest, fingerprints, convictions, and sentence of the plaintiff. So now I'm going to cover the theoretical framework. In regards to the modified learning theory, those that are wrongfully convicted, especially those that are subjected to lengthy prison sentences, are labeled as criminals and may ingrain that stigma. Labeling theory explains that those that are formally labeled are more likely to identify as deviant and participate in deviant behavior. While factually innocent individuals may not internalize the label or re-socialize with a new deviant identity, the perceived stigma may still be placed onto them from social agents. The individual may struggle to find employment, housing, until their records are expunged. Individuals who haven't or aren't able to prove their innocence are trapped in a situation where they must indicate that they were convicted of a crime on job applications and may be viewed as lying if they don't. Individuals who are able to expunge their records and prove their innocence are able to receive statutory compensation and are less likely to suffer from these negative stigmas over time. In regards to critical race theory, this is based on the idea that racism is ordinary and does not often get acknowledged. Interest convergence explains that there is little incentive to remove racism because it actively benefits white individuals who make up a large portion of the population. Racism is also considered to be a social construct that society creates, manipulates, or discards when convenient. African American community in the US makes up about 13% of the population, but are 7 times more likely to be charged with murder. About 50% of defendants that were exonerated for murder since 1986 were African American, and of those convicted of murder, Black defendants were 22% more likely to have cases involving misconduct. So how do wrongful convictions occur, and how do we stop this? So the leading causes of wrongful convictions include eyewitness misidentification, false admissions, faulty forensic evidence, incentivized informants, government actors, and no crime cases. So I'm going to give a couple examples of reforms that can help reduce the effect of these contributing factors. Eyewitness misidentification can be addressed by giving witnesses clear instructions when identifying a suspect. They should be informed that the suspect may not be included in a lineup at all, and a blind or double-blind lineup can help ensure that authorities do not give confirming or disconfirming feedback to the witness about the identification of a suspect. Juveniles and individuals with mental illnesses are also especially susceptible to false confessions, and by providing them with counsel, they are less likely to give a false guilty plea. Faulty forensic evidence may also be related to the fact that forensic laboratories are a branch of law enforcement, which may inherently create a bias and pressure to make conclusions and connections. By removing laboratories and making them independent third parties, more sound research and methods can be produced. To reduce incentivized informants that have the potential to lie in court, reforms such as collecting data on informants and requiring evidence to back up their discoveries, such as recording all conversations between law enforcement and informants so that any deals that they have made can be made public knowledge. Reliability hearings could also be utilized so that judges can determine whether the informant's testimony is admissible in court. By providing government actors with more comprehensive training on implicit biases related to race, ethnicity, gender, and other demographics and stereotypes, prosecutors and police can also become more educated on their own internal prejudices. Defense attorneys should also receive adequate funding and pay as well as lower caseloads so that they can properly scrutinize data and gather information relating to their defendant's innocence. No crime cases are harder to prevent as people can be suspects for crime for the same reasons already listed above, and reforming the individual policies and government agencies, no crime cases will also be reduced overall. So Nevada and California both have really strong wrongful conviction compensation acts. Nevada provides $50,000 per year to individuals that are wrongfully served 1 to 10 years in prison, $75,000 to anyone that served 10 to 20 years in prison, and $100,000 per year for anyone that served over 20 years. Under this act, individuals are also eligible for tuition assistance, medical expenses, counseling, and reentry services. California offers $51,110 for each year served. They provide medical expenses, job coverage, assistance, housing assistance, counseling services, reentry services, and immediate assistance of $1,000 upon exoneration. California also has other statutes that offer non-monetary relief, such as eyewitness identification must be regulated with proper witness instructions, recording of the procedure in blind or blinded administration. All interrogations must be recorded for homicide suspects, and law enforcement is also not allowed to give any misleading or false information to minors during interrogation. All convicted felons serving prison sentences can file for post-conviction DNA testing, and all evidence must be presented for the duration of the defendant's imprisonment. Courts are also required to give juries clear instructions regarding the testimony of jailhouse informants and to consider them with more scrutiny. So my recommendations for the Michigan Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Act would be to add similar non-monetary benefits and also extra monetary benefits for the more time served in prison, similar to Nevada and California. If individuals were placed on death row, which is not of concern in Michigan, they should have an even higher compensation level on par with the federal government that offers $1,000 per year. Similar to California, housing, healthcare, job searches, mental health counseling, and immediate financial assistance upon release are also recommended. So in conclusion, there should also be an emphasis on reducing the impact on communities that are most likely to be affected. Race is oftentimes not mentioned in compensation laws, and if the current Michigan compensation law remains, little will change to address racial disparities. The long process would remain, and wrongful convictions would likely continue to occur with little resources. In order to address this, Michigan can follow in the steps of other states and include provisions to their act so that individuals can receive monetary and non-monetary support. Compensation laws may not be the only solution to wrongful convictions, but they offer necessary remediations that should always be guaranteed. Thank you.